Hey, Miss Love.
Hi,
How are you
Miss
today?
Love. I'm great.
Sorry,
How
I
are
got your
you?
foot.
No worries.
So first what I want to do is just kind of review the goals that we set from the last session.
Okay.
I know you were talking about writing and how you were worried about students, coming up with constructed responses and having to type that out, especially while they're being timed taking an assessment.
Correct.
So you said that your goal was to use Microsoft Word or Google Docs or a Nearpod to create a written response in a timed manner that would help improve the Georgia milestone scores. Are you still good with that goal?
Yes.
Okay. And then we said that the teaching strategy that you were going to use to hit your goal was, again, using either Microsoft Word or Google Doc or Nearpod for that.
Yes.
You still good with that?
Good.
Okay, so based on what your goal was from our last session, I've come up with a checklist on assessments. If you want to go ahead and look at those, and if there's anything you'd like to add.
I think the checklist for assessments looks good, and then just to ensure for ELL students, ensuring that the accommodations match the assessment given.
Okay, so I'll make note of that to make sure that students who are ESS or ELL are receiving their proper accommodations so that the test is valid.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, so looking at our checklist, you said that for the assessments we needed to make sure that we provided the correct accommodations for students. What do you mean by accommodations? What could we include?
For ELL or ESS, to ensure that this might be done in a small group setting. If they needed repeated oral instructions, they can have test questions read to them. And so we just want to ensure that ELL or ESS are receiving those specific accommodations to match the assessment so it is a valid score.
Yeah, I agree with that. Okay, so when I come in to coach, to model, do you want to see me use a Nearpod or Google Docs, use Microsoft Word? What are you thinking?
A Nearpod would be great. I am a support teacher, and the classroom teacher just used a Nearpod with paired passages to do a constructed response. And then once, if they didn't have time to finish, we copied and pasted in Google Docs just to work on timing. So that would be great to do another Nearpod coaching.
So the students are already familiar with a Nearpod.
Correct.
Okay, so what I'll plan to do is I'll come in with a Nearpod and I'll have 2 paired passages, and then I will provide a prompt and a question for students to answer. And on our goal, we said we wanted to do it in a timed manner. So, I could set my clock for a certain amount of time for the students, and then the students with accommodations can have, an extra
extended time.
Yeah.
Okay.
15 or 20 minutes. Does that sound good to you?
That sounds great.
Okay, so I'd like to show you the Nearpod that I've created to model with your students. It's 2 small paired passages. It's got questions and a constructed response.
Okay.
So if you'll just look up here.
Okay.
So I have a first small passage, and then when I click the button, it takes them to 4 questions that they have to answer.
Okay.
And then we have our next passage that they have to read, and then 4 questions that go along with it. And then I've added in the passages again so that students can refer back to it as they're answering their constructed response.
Okay.
And then you click the arrow, and here's their constructed response.
Okay. I love that format. I like how you've added the passages at the end. Another accommodation might mean that they could pull, or not accommodation, but feature, they could add another tab to help them tab back and forth. I know the homeroom teacher has done that, but I do like how your passages are together. And I think it's great that you've added questions because they are familiar with that format from Right Score. So that's just getting them prepared to read a passage, answer questions, and then do a constructed response. So the setup looks great.
Do you think students will be successful practicing something like this?
I do. They've had, just with the Right Score and what they've had in their homeroom as a support teacher, I think they will be familiar with this. So I look forward to their achievement.
Okay. All right. Good morning, boys and girls. Thank you so much for having me today. Today what we're going to do is we are going to look at a couple of paired passages. They're really short, not really long, and then we're going to answer some questions about the passages, and then at the very end we are going to do a constructive response here on the Nearpod. So what I want to do first is I want to read the passages to you so that you're not struggling to read these. Bread and milk. Neeral's mother asked her to go to the store to buy some bread and milk. She gave her $5. When Neeral got to the store, she found that the bread and milk cost almost $6. Okay, so now that we have answered the multiple choice questions, now it's time for our constructed response. For our constructed response, I am going to set a time for you to answer these questions. If you are working in the small group with Ms. Ramirez, you will have an extra 15 minutes to complete the writing part of the test. Okay? Now, I have given you both passages right here together. Okay, so that was bread and milk, and then this is missing. And when you go to the next slide, here is your question. It says, how are the shopkeeper in bread and milk and Sarah in missing similar? Please explain your answer. Make sure that when you are writing your answer, you use a topic sentence and you use evidence from both passages. So I know that we're getting towards the end of the year and everybody's busy getting ready for milestones and end of the year assessments. Is there a time that works best for you, to come in and model?
I think next week before spring break, we would allow some time to work that out so we can do the Nearpod.
Okay. Do you want me to come in and model, or would it be best if you watched a video?
Whatever you prefer. I'm
Okay.
flexible.
Okay.